Number one, writing is a skill and skills take time to develop. And writing a book is different than writing an essay or a short story. There is a whole art to writing a full length book from beginning to end. Think about the first picture you ever drew. It wasn't ready for a gallery. The first sports game you ever played wasn't ready for the major leagues. And the first sound you made out of an instrument wasn't ready for the orchestra. Your book is very much the same. Odds are the first book you write isn't going to be ready for publication. And that's okay. That's pretty standard. But as always, there's exceptions to the rules. There's always going to be an exception. But that's the thing, they're exceptions. Most people aren't going to be an exception. And odds are the people who do publish their very first book spent a long time writing it. So between that first book I wrote in high school and now, I have written about 11 books, if I'm not forgetting any. And none of them have seen publication for good reasons. Now, the last one I am planning to get out in fall of 2026. So hopefully, number 11 will be out there in the world before too long. But it wasn't until I wrote many books that I really started to feel like I knew what I was doing. And if you research some of the best writers, you'll find that this is not unusual. Most writers that published traditionally have written more than one book before their published book. Obviously, these statistics change for indie books because you have complete control over whether or not you're publishing it. And it could be a good thing and it could be a bad thing. Now, obviously, like I've said before, I'm planning to indie publish now because many reasons. But as indie publishers, we definitely don't want to put our work out too soon. But back to the example of traditional publishing, for example, Brandon Sanderson, who has over 71 books published, and probably by the time this video hits, he's probably going to have 100 because he just writes that fast. That's an exaggeration. But he wrote somewhere between 12 and 13 books before one of those books got published. Another very famous writer wrote about, I'm not going to mention his name because I don't support his work, but he wrote about 4 books before he was traditionally published. And the average for traditionally published authors is about 3 to 4 books. So you don't necessarily have to be like me or Sanderson and wait until you've written a dozen books, but you can. But you probably should write about 3 or 4 before you publish one. So remember, as an author, your reputation starts with the very first book you put out there. And a bad reputation is hard to shake off. Now, granted, you could always change your name to a pen name, but why give your ego the bashing in the first place when you could have just waited a little longer and had a very successful launch?